Welcome to the Career Ready Podcast. Learn about resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn, interviewing, and all things you need to be career ready with the Career Service Center at College of DuPage. I'm one of your hosts, Pierre Michaels. Later in today's episode, I'm going to lead the conversation on how to leverage your pitch on LinkedIn.
And I'm another one of your hosts, Rebecca Harrington, and I will end the episode with this week's question submitted to our listener mailbag at careerpodcast@cod.edu about writing the body of your cover letter. But first, you're going to hear from our other host, Michelle Malik.
Thanks, all. I'm going to start our episode today with some information about our resource of the day, which is ONET. So ONET is a career exploration website with many resources, and also there's lots of data on there about jobs. So you can look at career summaries here with information about work tasks, salary, technology skills, educational information, and oftentimes we get asked too about what the hot jobs are, and I really love referring students and clients to this website to find that out. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. We have talked about Career Coach on the podcast before, and ONET has more detailed information. So sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming to look at the information. So we just say to take it one step at a time, and we are here for you if you need more help. But I wanted to highlight this resource because you can use it to complete research. And what I mean by this is you can research industry vocabulary. You can research tasks, skills, and technology that are all associated with a career. And then with this research, you can use it to guide the creation of your elevator pitch, the summary section of your resume, and in several sections of your LinkedIn profile, which Pierre is going to be talking about next. So I wanted to highlight a few features here that ONET offers. So with the tasks section, this is talking about the daily tasks. So you can use this section to see what you'd be doing in the role. So obviously confirm that you would enjoy doing those tasks on a daily basis. You can also use this to identify industry-specific language and really ask yourself, how can you incorporate this language into conversations about yourself as a professional, as well as within your professional documents. So it gives you a really great starting point to start thinking about that. Also, too, when you go to ONET, if you click on the plus signs next to each task, you can also see what other jobs have similar tasks within them as well, which is really great for career exploration. So going next to the technology section, this is where you can get an idea of what you will need to be skilled at in order to enter the role or as you enter a new role. So there are these little fireballs that you'll see next to technology, and they're called hot technology, or these are the requirements that are most frequently included across all employer job postings. So just like with the tasks section, you can use this section as a way to customize your pitch and make sure that you stand out as a unique candidate. And then lastly, there's the Bright Outlook occupations. So for those of you who are still exploring careers and aren't quite sure where to get started, ONET does have a Bright Outlook occupations tab, and this is where you can search for jobs that are growing rapidly, jobs with numerous openings, as well as new and emerging careers. So ONET is a really valuable resource, and it's free for you to use. So definitely take advantage as you start to develop your professional pitch.
Thanks for that great ONET overview, Michelle. And just to point out, if you want to get to ONET, just go online and you can go to onetonline.org. That's ONET online.org. And now that we've done that research and have found that terminology, identified some resources, we want to use that as part of our pitch. So as we continue our Your Pitch series, in this third part, we're going to be looking at LinkedIn. But as a recap, first you heard us talk about using your pitch to network and deliver it in a verbal way. In part 2, we discussed using your pitch on the resume in the summary or introduction section to help set the tone and motivate the reader to look more at your document. In part 3, for LinkedIn, we will build off of both of these approaches. The main goal of sharing your pitch, regardless of the setting, is to motivate people to engage with us more. Within LinkedIn, I want to review 3 parts where you have a chance to share your pitch. The first and most important area is your headline. LinkedIn will default and create a headline for you based on what you entered as you were creating your profile. Normally, it's a position name at this company, which really doesn't sell your abilities. It's not really a good pitch to motivate people to engage with you. within LinkedIn, your headline can show up in multiple places, not just on your profile. It may make suggestions to people, and different people viewed these LinkedIn pages, or people looked at this person. So your profile headline can show up in those different areas. And you want to make sure that your headline is nice and short, because it can get cut off depending on that setting. In all these different areas, you need to be brief. And my general recommendation is to keep it around 8 words. Start with your elevator pitch that we've been discussing and identify the core ideas, the core words and ideas you want the LinkedIn viewer to associate with you. Turn those core words into a very quick headline. So that 8 words is my general recommendation. Rebecca, Michelle, do you have any additional tips for the headline?
Well, I think, for me, it can be a little bit longer, but I definitely would say anything that you really care about should be in those first 8 words. And I think it can be confusing, but, you can, in fact, just include words. You can do a short phrase. It doesn't have to be a complete sentence. So if you just want to, list, the top 4 words, that you want people to associate with you. And I think this is also the place if you are looking to change careers, right? Or to start a career because you're a student and you're moving into something new, those words shouldn't be related to the thing that you were doing. They should be related to what you want to do, because that's what you want people to associate with your name when they see you.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The other thing I was going to mention too, which will apply to the headline, the about section, and the other sections that you talk about, is if you're not quite sure where to get started, looking at other professionals in the field to see what they have on their profiles. Because from there, again, you can pick up on industry language, how are they representing themselves, and you can use that as inspiration for your profile too.
Yeah, great points to help keep that message alive, but really making sure that it is your message. And as we transition here to that second area, the about section, we're really going to build off of what we were just hearing. And this is going to be closer to your resume. As Rebecca said, this about or this headline area can just be core words. It doesn't need to be a sentence. This about section, it's kind of like that summary on the resume where we're writing sentences. We're getting a more full thought in there. And this is taking that summary of the resume and expanding on it. So taking our elevator pitch and expanding on it. Again, as a general rule, I would say this could be about 2 paragraphs, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be that. And as Michelle was saying, I think to actually research other people in the industry and see what they're doing, because some industries, that may be more brief in their about section, or maybe it's longer. Maybe it's almost more of a bullet style. And that's going to just be personal preference, but also tends to have trends within industries and how information is presented within industry. So if you're ever trying to figure out how to approach your about section and lengthen your pitch, look at other people to see what they're doing. Do either of you have additional thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it's similar to the resume, but the one difference is that you can use I. It doesn't have to be maybe quite as formal sounding as your resume. So you can sound a little bit more like yourself. And again, though, this could be industry specific. So again, I cannot emphasize enough what Pierre said is look at what other professionals in that industry are doing, because depending on the field, it could be that they do want it to sound a little bit more professional on the resume, but others, if it's a more creative field, this might be where you could sound a little bit more like yourself, kind of using some of your own words as opposed to just kind of on the resume. We feel really restrictive and sounding more professional, and it just kind of comes out that way because you can't say I.
Yeah, and I think a big difference within that, just to build off that idea, is with the resume, we talk about that being so brief, about 4 lines. So
Right.
to not use I, it's the professional standard, but it also lets you be more efficient in that presentation, to where the about area and throughout your entire LinkedIn profile, you could be a little bit more detailed. Your LinkedIn or your resume is meant to be concise, where LinkedIn lets you really reinforce and back up some of that information. It's a supplemental to the resume.
Right. You want them to feel like they're talking to you a little bit. You're having a little bit of a conversation.
And as we think of having that conversation and really being able to present ourselves, this brings us to the third part of LinkedIn where we get to share our pitch. And this is newer on LinkedIn. You can only add it if you have the mobile app. You can't add it on the desktop platform. Once it's added, it could be viewed from either one. But you need to use the mobile app to add in a recording of you delivering your pitch. And this recording will actually live under your profile picture. So then someone can either scroll over the picture or they click on the picture, and then your video will play. So this is a great opportunity to provide your pitch, to provide that elevator pitch where you are speaking about yourself, because this will then give someone 24/7 opportunity to hear you present on yourself. Within LinkedIn, people have access to you at all times. So to add this recording gives an opportunity for someone to see your introduction whenever it's convenient for them. So as a reminder, your elevator pitch is best when personalized to a listener. And that's really hard to do when it's a recording. So keep the ideas general and make sure that what you're conveying is the core things that you want the viewer to take away. All right, Michelle, Rebecca, anything you guys want to add?
Yeah, so I have two thoughts going back to the video on LinkedIn. I think that's a really good idea. I know when I've been searching for doctors, sometimes they will have videos of themselves and it makes me feel more comfortable seeing them, or I get to kind of get a glimpse into their personality. So I think it's cool that LinkedIn is doing that so the employer can kind of preview that candidate. And then also the candidate gets a way to represent themselves professionally. So I really like that.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I knew about this, but then I kind of forgot about this. So thank you for bringing it back up. And I was just thinking, I think it would be really great to show your use of technology too, just to show that you're comfortable with this and you know all the latest and greatest, things. And I think it would be impressive.
Definitely. Or even if if the job requires you to do a presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's true. I could see certain fields, again, benefiting from this more than others. I'm sure for any it would be fine, but I absolutely, if there's any part of your job, if it was anything where you're interacting with clients, or doing presentations, that kind of thing, I think a video would be great. And the thing about LinkedIn, so just to kind of, think about this in general is like, you can change this stuff. Like, so I always just say, try it. Just, because it is hard to think of, like you're saying, you want to be broad, like appeal to, different people. And sometimes it's hard to know what's going to be appealing to people. So when you're thinking about your pitch, and this, again, just to say your pitch in general, right? Whether it's your networking pitch or your resume or LinkedIn, is just try it. And if you're not getting the responses that you want, then go back and, do some more research. Go to ONET, go to other profiles, and then, you can re-record, you can rewrite something, and that is okay to do.
Yeah, you always want to be updating it, right? You don't want to update it every hour, but you do want to be updating it. And that is very true. If you want to adjust your pitch, don't think that I'm saying not to, but just make sure that you have a consistent message that you will be conveying, and then you can convey it in different ways, but you don't want to be representing yourself in different ways with each new
Right, your resume should go along with your LinkedIn, because oftentimes people, they might get your resume and see your LinkedIn link and click on it. So again, if you give a message on LinkedIn that doesn't go along with what you have in your resume, I would be confused as an employer.
That kind of segues into my second point too, is I was working with a client and she had a culinary degree from COD. She didn't want to get work in a kitchen though, but when we reviewed her LinkedIn profile and also her resume too, she was emphasizing her knife skills. So it's just a great example of customize your pitch, right? So customize the resume, customize the things that you're adding into LinkedIn, because that might, for her, if she's emphasizing those knife skills, that might have attracted employers that maybe work at restaurants or cafes or something like that. So we definitely talked about that to eliminate that from her pitch.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I just like someone has knife skills. I don't think about that, but
right.
that's really cool.
Right.
So I understand why you'd want to. You're like, I got knife skills.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to use knives at the job
Right.
that you're looking for,
right,
then it's probably better to instead emphasize something else.
And to go back to a point Michelle made a little bit earlier, as far as this recording giving you an opportunity to showcase your presentation skill sets. And that's what each of these 3 headlines are. They're different ways for you to show your ability to present your pitch. The headline is going to be your very concise pitch. Your about section is going to be more of a written format to showcase yourself. And then this recording is your verbal presentation. So each of these provide a different way for you to showcase your professional brand. You just want to make sure that you do keep your goal in mind and you have that consistency across all these presentations that you are providing. And the drastic difference here is you can't be doing it to the unique setting of the networking or targeting a specific company, but you can still make sure that it is your pitch that is being represented. So you want to go onto LinkedIn, you want to share your pitch, and you want to put this upfront time to identify that core information that you want to be that representation of your professional brand. And then you want to go out there and connect with people.
Absolutely. And I'm so sorry. I'm going to just add one more thing really quick, the way you said that. I work teaching professional writing sometimes. And one thing employers will say when it comes to somebody that's doing writing is they want them to be able to do that short, quick version, that slightly longer version, and then maybe a version for a video. Like, absolutely, that comes up all the time. So that was a really great point, is you're just demonstrating that you have that skill.
Well, thank you for emphasizing that. And I'll let you take it away, Rebecca, as you answer a question.
All right. Thank you. So as a reminder, if you have a question for us, you can submit it to careerpodcast@cod.edu or, of course, on social media at COD Career Center. And you may hear the answer in a future episode. So today's question is, what should I say in the body of my cover letter so it doesn't sound like my resume? Very important, great question. We don't want the cover letter to just be a repeat of the resume. It should expand on the important ideas that are mentioned in the resume. So think of important skills or experiences from your resume that would be good to highlight on the cover letter. I'd say 2 or 3, maybe 4. And each one of these will get a short paragraph, or, if there's 4, maybe you'd combine a couple. For each skill or experience, think of an example or 2 that you can share quickly. The idea is to help them picture you doing the work, give them a little bit more than is on the resume, tell a story, basically. People remember stories. So if they are reading your cover letter and it's just a bunch of repeats from your resume, that's not really memorable. But if you give them that little bit of a story, they'll remember that. And hopefully they will be impressed and curious and want to ask you more about that example. So for example, instead of listing off all the same skills from your resume, right, pick 1 or 2 that are related and give an example of when you use them. You might say something like, one of my top skills is organization. As a college student working a part-time job, I need to keep myself on track to make sure that everything is done on time. For example, I recently had 2 papers due on the same day, and I was scheduled to work that week. By planning ahead and organizing my time, I was able to finish the papers early and work my shifts without issue. And that's it. That's the whole paragraph. It gives a lot of information, but it also gives them something to ask you about in the interview, something that now you've thought about and can answer with ease. So keep your cover letter to 1 page, unless you're in like the higher education field or other academic fields. Those sometimes can go longer, but typically keep it to that page. You should have an intro, have those 2 to 3 body paragraphs, and then a nice closing with the a call for them to reach out to you. Any other tips on the body paragraph?
Yeah, I just want to take note as far as when you are trying to pick those skill sets. I know you said related.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what does that mean, right? We're not just looking at our resume and saying, oh, I think this would relate. Look at the job description
Absolutely.
and identify what the employer is asking for. So use that as the first round of filtration. You look at the job description, identify what skills they're looking for, and then see what you've included on your resume or what you will include on your resume, because you're going to be personalizing all of it to that employer, and then go from there.
Yeah, I was going to say, definitely thank you for that, because that when I say important, that's what I mean, is what's on the job posting, because it should be a different cover letter for every employer. I mean, you might, reuse some, kind of between different jobs, but you should always be looking at that job posting when developing your documents.
Yeah, I'm glad a listener asked this question because it's so important. I feel like when I work with students and clients, they're always stumped by the body paragraph.
Yes,
But then once they have that little formula, it's easier to write it.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, thank you for that information, Rebecca. Thank you to all our listeners, and I hope you're feeling much better about building up your LinkedIn profile and having it reflect your brand and sharing your pitch through the platform.